there is many of us who have been pointing out disparities. There is many of us who have routinely said that we have the feeling that Black and Latino life is not viewed the same and giving as much weight as other lives across the city, and many people are continually rebuffed. And every time we present evidence of such, we're rebuffed again. And we're here today with similar information that I hope there is a response that makes sense. I do want to say that the purpose of this press conference on today's the 9th, on 9 days into an administration, is not to beat up on an administration. It is to point out a problem that has apparently been building for the past 12 to 20 years, if not further, and to make sure that this problem stays out there until it's fixed, until it's remedied. Again, it's 9 days into administration. We don't expect everything to be fixed, but I would say, as I was reading this article, it was troubling because I have worked with many of the mothers that was talked about in the article. And I worked most intimately with Ms. Ray's side after her son was passed. And I would tell these mothers, there's first of all nothing you can tell a mother who's lost a child that can help, period. The thing they hang on to is getting some kind of justice. And I would tell them the police are working on and giving the best amount of resources they can to solve these murders so there be some semblance of peace. And as I read this article, I was wondering to myself, was I lying to them? That is a problem. That is an issue. I would say about half an hour ago, thanks to the mayor and the commissioner, I met with some high-ranking officials in the police department who assured me that they are looking into this issue. They also said that some of the numbers were incorrect, and I am assured that there's still a problem. They are going to look into fixing and readjusting and assessing how these resources are put out. I want to thank them for that. I would say that may not be enough if we continue and nothing is done. So I do want to thank the people who are here. I want to obviously thank Public Advocate Tish James. I want to thank Councilmember Danique Miller. The two most important people here, Donna Rayside, who lost her son Dustin Yates, Darlene John, who lost her son Kaylin John. They are members of the Gun Violence Task Force here. Glenn Martin, Andre Mitchell. Some people behind me are part of the task force, and some people just work on anti-violence work. So I want to thank Glenn Martin from the Just Leadership USA, Richard Green, Crown Youth Collective. I don't think I saw him. Andre Mitchell, founder CEO of Man Up Inc. He might be with us shortly. Reverend Terry Troyer, Project Hospitality. Erica Ford, President CEO I Love My Life. Michael Hines for Council of Unity. Eric Waterman, East Flatbush Village. Shanduke McFadder for GMAC. Thomas Giovanni, Maria Christensen and Cynthia Taylor, Legal Aid, Mike Tucker, I mentioned that, Marlene Peterson, Fortune Society. I want to thank them all. And again, many of us who are working on the issues have said that we are not anti-police. We think, and everyone here, although many of the violence disruptors don't work with police, they work in the communities themselves, but they understand the benefit and the partnership needed with an efficient police department to help keep us safe. And all we are asking is that's what we get. And when you look at these numbers, I am 67 precinct in Flatbush Village, 136 protected. I get 2.3 murders per detective. You look at something like Manhattan South, they're getting upwards of 15 and change per detective. These are some of the top murder precincts in the district. 2.3, 1.6, 1.9, 2.1, 2.5. These are all open cases that are left. You look over here. Manhattan North, 7.1. Manhattan South gets 15.6 detectives per murder. There's a problem here. I understand that the numbers are not exact. I'm sure this does not reflect what we need in this city. I was also distraught when I realized that the color of the skin may affect whether the homicide remains open or remains closed, almost twice as much. That's a problem. And I understand that some of that may have to do with problems getting information from the community. I and other people are working to correct that. We also have to work on the trust factor that needs to be rebuilt from the past 12 to 20 years so we can get that information. And I speak to the people who are involved in street life, and I want to say that it is unfair to ask a community who has not signed up for the street life, who has not signed up for a street code, to abide by a street code that is the antithesis of their survival. If a grandmother sees her grandson shot and killed, who had nothing to do with the street life, him or her, it is unfair to hold her accountable for a snitching code that they neither signed up for or asked for. All they wanted to do was live in affordable housing. We must stop asking people who have no intention of signing up for a street code to abide by one that is the antithesis of their survival. Start by asking the mothers to say a few words. And first, I will call up Ms. Donna Rayside.
In one of my son's songs, he said, he kept repeating, "This is how I feel." So this is how I feel when I saw this article. My son, Dustin Yates, was gunned down on May 27, 2013, in front of New York Trucks Club in Brooklyn. He was just 31 years old and had dreams of becoming a law enforcement officer. There have been 2 more shootings since Dustin's senseless murder, and this club is still open for business. Do we think that it would have been business as usual if this had happened in a white neighborhood and the victim was white? At the very least, the club would have been closed until a thorough investigation was completed and the club was made to provide greater security, including security cameras. Numbers don't lie. Data show that the precinct which covers the area where Dustin took his last breath only has 2 detectives to a case, compared to a similar geographic area in Manhattan where there are 4 to 6 detectives. It is most upsetting for the outgoing Police Commissioner Kelly to say, to quote, that some murders are going to happen and go unsolved, and that's just how it is. I thought we lived in a country of laws. The ex-commissioner seemed to be saying to mothers like me and you, "Though look, your son is dead and we can't do anything about it." In an era where our black young men are being gunned down in unprecedented numbers, there are those who perpetrate the myth of inherent black criminality. They do so by touting the all too familiar phrase of black on black crime, giving the impression that the problem of crime is one of race and that blacks are inherently criminal. The Bureau of Justice Statistics notes that most crime is intraracial and not interracial. That is, blacks are more likely to be killed by blacks, and whites are most likely to be killed by whites. Statistics show that 84% of white victims are killed by whites, and 93% of black victims are killed by blacks. According to Chanel A. Jones from the University of the Dominican in Ohio, crime is often associated with proximity. Blacks are more likely to live near other blacks, therefore the opportunity to offend blacks is greater. Whites are more likely to live near other whites, therefore the opportunity to offend whites is greater. John Edwards and the former President Jimmy Carter articulated well the fact that we live in 2 Americas, one white and the other black, where treatment is based on race and residency. Just a cursory peek into the numbers from the Bureau of Justice Statistics reveals that there is significant disparity in the allocation of resources to fight crime. Black neighborhoods have significantly less police presence than white neighborhoods. This is even more glaring when one considers the socio-economic status of the community. Finding my son's killer or killers and bringing them to justice would be much more a reality if resources are allocated to doing just that. Thank you.
Next, I want to call up Ms. Dolene John, whose son Keeling Jones.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
My name is Dolene John. My son, Kellen John, I brought him to this country for a better future. He was only 22 years old when he was gunned down on my front stoop on the 7th of January of 2013. I have just celebrated a memorial for him last Tuesday night, which marks the 1 year. And yet still, his killer is still at large. This is a photo here, a sketch of the person, the criminal, the monster that took my innocent son's life. My son didn't know anything about the streets. My son came here, he wanted to be a veterinarian. And he had just had a baby. His baby was 2 months old when he lost his life. There was a girl who got shot with him, and she's the one who did the sketch. The 67th precinct were called on several it's hard. It's really hard. Someone tried to break in my house earlier that day. We made several calls to the 67th precinct, and nobody showed. No one showed up until my son was shot. He was standing on the front stoop, and the person walked up from behind and shot him in the back of his head. Kellen did not deserve to die the way he did. Kellen was kind-hearted, loving. He was a brother, he was a father, and he was a son. Kellen lived with me. December 10th of that year would have been 2 years since I brought my son to this country for a better future. And they took his life home. His friends would visit him at the house. He had never liked the streets. And he lost his life on the front stoop of his dwelling place. He lost his life home. And I'm asking and I'm praying that the person or persons who are responsible for my son's life be brought to justice. I'm asking the police commissioner to please help mothers like us. I'm saying again, if my son had been murdered in Kingston or somewhere else where, it was like the white neighborhood, I think his murder would have been solved. This sketch was not done until 4 months after my son was shot. 4 months after. The girl who got shot with my son, she saw the shooter. She saw the shooter, and she was in the hospital for 2 months and constantly calling on the detectives to please come let her do the sketch. I have another son living in California. He had to take time off from his job and fly to this country, fly to come to New York and go to the 6-7 precinct with the help of Pastor Monrose and a friend of mine, Natasha Christopher, in order to get assistance with the 6-7 precinct to go to the victim who got shot with my son to do this sketch. 4 months after my son was shot, a sketch was done. You know how far this person could have been and reached? They gave them ample time to go into hiding. Now it's hard. It's a year now and still nothing yet has been done. I'm an angry mother, as all other mothers who lost a son. It's not easy when you try to grow your child in the right way and things like these have to come and happen. Kellen didn't hurt anyone. He didn't deserve to die the way he did. Kellen left behind 2 children, a 5-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old son. And it's hard to always say to them, your daddy is not here, your daddy is not coming back. His daughter will always say to me, Grandma, why did they kill my daddy? Why? Now I have no daddy. It's really hard. I have to say to her, no, your grandfather is like your father, your uncle is like your father. Don't say you don't have any daddy. It's hard. And I would like help. We need help. It's not easy waking up and not seeing our sons, our daughters who have been gunned down on the streets of New York, especially the ones who have came here for a better future. They said America is the place where you come, it's a land of opportunities, but when you bring your kids here and they die, it's hard. We don't even get justice. And I think they all deserves justice. We all deserve justice, because one mother's cry is another mother's cry. It's really, really hard. It's hard when you can't sleep at night, when you put a plate to eat and you're wondering, my son or my daughter should have been here to partake in this gathering or this plate of food. It's really hard. And then besides of it, when they die and leave children, nobody comes forward to help you with those kids. Nobody. You have to struggle on your own to take care of these kids. And always have to have a constant reminder in your head to tell them, you know, your father had been gunned down. How do you think they feel? And guns are selling like a bottle of water on the street. They're even selling the toy guns to kids, and from young ages they're learning to shoot toy guns. What do you think they're going to grow up doing? Guns is something you have to get rid of. Even the water guns, the toy guns, all guns. I don't want to see a gun. I don't even want to hear a balloon pop, because I was home the day when my son died. Jeez. I was home the day I was just taking care of his baby. Kellen just walked out of my room, giving me 2 pair of clothes and said, Mommy, put one of these on Cody for me. I want to see him in one of these. He never lived to see his son in that suit. When I heard the shots, I took my grandson and I dropped very low behind my bed. 4th of July was really hard for me with the fireworks and the popping of the balloons and all. I can't hear it. It's very disturbing to me. Every time I hear like a car drop in a pothole, it makes me very nervous. Very, very nervous. Until this person is brought to justice, I know my son is not ever going to come back. It's hard. It's a very hard pill for me to swallow. But until this person is brought to justice, then I could get peace. Then I could get peace. He is still at large. And I think the police system is doing nothing. Because my son was a black American. I think they are doing nothing. Because if they could have took 4 months before they did a sketch of a person who got shot and killed, what more again? I be looking at the news and I see a man will pass and grope a woman, and his sketch will be up in the news as soon as that person report the sketches in the news. And my son was gunned down on my front stoop, and this sketch was done 4 months after. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Thank you.
These are real people.
Thank you.
These are real families. These are real mothers. They're not numbers, and they're not nameless stories that fade. I did want to say thank you to Pastor Guilford Monroe's, who's not here. Both Ms. John and Natasha Christopher, who I'm going to call up in a second, are part of. Pastor Monroe's is the president of the 67 Precinct Clergy Council, and he had to start a smaller group just for mothers who lost their children to help one another. It's unfortunate that he even had to form that, and it's more unfortunate that there's way too many members. But I'm thankful for him for setting it up, and giving these mothers the ability to help each other.
My name is Natasha Christopher. My 14-year-old son, Akil Christopher, was gunned down on the streets of New York City June 27th and then died on his birthday, July 10th. My thing is, I should have never lost a son to gun violence. My son was only 14 years old. He didn't even begin to live life yet. I should have never had to bury a child. This person that took my son's life, he took my son's life for what? My son lost his life senselessly to gun violence. And my thing is, what are we doing? When will enough be enough? Another mother should never have to bury a child. You know, the one thing that my kids want, I can't give back to them. I have to watch my 7-year-old son, who's standing right beside me right now, Christopher Underwood, cry every night because he wants his brother to come back. The brother that he will never, never get back. There's too much guns on the street. And we as a community have to come together and stand together and say enough is enough. Another mother should not cry. I should have never had to join a support group for mothers who lost their children to gun violence. But if it wasn't for that support group, I won't be able to stand here right now. This gun violence that is plaguing our city, it's ridiculous. The mayor has to step up and do something better. I had enough. I don't want to ever have to bury another child. I want my kids to feel safe when they go to the park. I want my kids to come home safe to me. All I know, enough is enough. The person that did this to my son is still out there. He's still walking the streets free to do this to some other mother. When will this end? Thank you.
And I want to thank Public Advocate Tish James for being here. I know it's the 9th day, so she's very busy, and I know she agrees that this issue is too important to miss. So I want to thank Tish James for being here, and she's going to say a few words.
Thank you, Councilmember Williams. Every year in the 77th Precinct, under the leadership of Reverend Tahaka Robinson, we march from the 77th Precinct to the 79th Precinct to commemorate the death of Chanel Petro Nixon. The Daily News has carried her story each and every year, but that crime remains unsolved, and countless other crimes throughout the city of New York remain unsolved. As the public advocate, I have the statutory authority to investigate the provision of municipal services in the city of New York. And one of the things that the office will be doing is looking at the inequity in terms of services. And this clearly cries out for an examination. You see, NYPD is bringing down crime rates in precincts over 40% in the last decade. But the truth is that many out-of-borough precincts continue to experience not only above average crime rates, a rate former Commissioner Ray Kelly admits is likely to remain stagnant. The NYPD's Cold Case Squad has about 50 detectives when it was formed in 1996, and currently have an estimated 8 number of detectives assigned to the Cold Case Squad. Again, the NYPD's Cold Case Squad had about 50 detectives in 1996, and it's my understanding that it's estimated to be around 8. Statistics from the NYND investigation include the following. Brooklyn has 77 open murder investigations. The Bronx, 39. Queens, 26. Manhattan, 15. And Staten Island, 2. The top 3 precincts with the most murders are the 67th, as we heard from some of the victims, the 77th, where the body of Chanel Petro Nixon was discovered, and the 75th precinct in East New York. Manhattan South Homicide has 10 detectives to assist precincts in murder investigations, despite only 10 murders in its jurisdiction in 2013. Brooklyn's North Homicide has 17 detectives, despite a whopping 86 homicides in its jurisdiction. It's clear that Commissioner Bratton, and I'm glad that Commissioner Bratton had a meeting with Councilmember Jumaane Williams, and I look forward to his leadership as well as the leadership of Mayor de Blasio, should consider shifting detectives to precincts where they are most needed. You see, detectives right now, unfortunately, are being assigned based on other factors, and they really should be based on objective factors relating to open homicides and the number and the high violent crime rate. Police personnel should not be dependent upon the average income of residents, tourism, or heightened media attention, but real need. And lastly, let me just say that although we have criticized NYPD in the past, the reality is that NYPD, the number of detectives, has dropped in the system from 7,151 in 2001 down to 5,137. And clearly, the open investigation, the cold case squad clearly requires additional services, additional resources, and an assignment to those precincts where the need is the greatest. I want to thank Councilmember Williams for his leadership. And again, my thoughts and prayers are with these families and to the countless number of constituents throughout the city of New York whose cases remain unsolved and who ask for some closure at this time. Thank you.
I just want to also reiterate that both Tish and I, when she was in the council, and many of us, although it's never really covered in the white noise, has been asked
to happen. I think this is a simple story being told here today, and it's been told for the last year. We've been hearing about the tale of two cities and all these disparities, and we think of economics and we think of income and social justices, but the criminal justice system here is failing us as well. When the numbers obviously speak for themselves. I don't have to go into it. I represent Southeast Queens, and I have Mr. Hines and Ms. Erica Ford here that work on the ground with our young people, providing the critical services that attempt to keep them off the street and keep them safe. But that's what we do. We're asking that the police department take a look, reallocate the resources and put them where they're needed. It's a simple ask, and I think that if we're going to tackle the issue of the tale of two cities, that's where we begin. We begin right where it means most. The lives of our young people. The lives of our young people, they must be safe, which means that we have to get guns off the street. Everyone here is committed to taking guns off the street. Everyone here is committed to the critical work that has to be done to save the lives of our young people. But we need law enforcement to partner up and do their job as well. And when that is done, we have to address these numbers in order for it to be done. And I think that's the most critical issue at hand here today. How is it possible? How is it possible that we have cases that go unsolved for more than a year? The stories that we heard here today. I think that by highlighting this, that we have an opportunity to highlight to the city of New York that we're committed to saving our young people and that we need the same commitment from government. What we cannot do is continue to attempt to do more with less. The critical goods and services that keep us safe, that enhance the quality of our lives, cannot be undermined by trying to do more with less. And more importantly, when we have an opportunity to take guns off the street, and more important, to take criminals off the street, murderers off the street, that we have to do what we can to do so. When mothers are committed, when community activists are committed, the police department have to show an equal commitment. And so we stand here today imploring that to happen. We say that the numbers don't lie. We say that the supply should meet the demand, and that we ask for the immediate reallocation of the resources of detectives and the police.
Conrad Yates behind me, who is Dustin Yates' father. Just one statistic that also jumped out at me. Roughly 86% of homicide victims involving a white victim have been solved, compared to 45% involving a black victim and 56% involving a Hispanic victim. That is a problem.
Our children's life is valuable, and I think that we can feel that this morning. January 1st, I'm from South Jamaica, Queens, we had the first homicide. And as we all know, we heard the city all hands on deck for the first storm. I didn't hear or feel all hands on deck for the first loss of life in New York City, or the second loss of life, or the third loss of life in New York City in 2014. So when we talk about Tales of Two Cities, let's make sure that we stand firm to breaking the stereotype of Tales of Two Cities and give our children's lives the same value that other children's lives have. Because our children's lives have value, and it doesn't matter who the mayor is, it doesn't matter who the police commissioner is, it doesn't matter who anybody is. Our children's lives are still valuable, and we don't only want to be stories about them when there's quote-unquote something wrong going on in our community. We want stories about our children when they're progressing. We want stories about our children to know that these children who lose their lives are somebody. Like all the time when we look in the news or we hear stories, it's like these black children's lives don't have value. They're just criminals killing black on black, as the mother was just saying, and that's not true. Every life is valuable. Everybody in this room has committed some kind of sin. And if you were known only for that one sin, then what would the world say about you? You know, so everyone has we're not here to judge. That's somebody else's job. We are here to help people excel to another level in life. We are help people to transform. We are here to help people put down their guns and pick up yoga mats or pick up cameras, pick up whatever it is that they feel can inspire them to be greater human beings in society and help transform society. So on that note, I not only say that we have to work as a tighter city, but we have to be conscious of the story that we put out, because our stories give hopelessness to a group of children who then turn around and act hopeless. And then we want to write the story about the act that they committed as opposed to what helped create the individual to create that act that they committed. Hurt people hurt people. Let's help our city heal. Let's help our children heal. Let's stand together. Next week, Wednesday, we start something here in New York that is called Peace Week, where we ask everyone to take their own personal responsibility to make peace a lifestyle, not only in New York City, but everywhere we are. So we urge you to join us as we make peace a lifestyle in this city.
And Erica's not joking. She has people on yoga mats.
Yes.
Yes, she does.
Yes.
You'd be shocked.
In the middle of the projects.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. You know, when we see these families here, these mothers, children, we're seeing the trauma that's associated with the gun violence that we see in our communities. And as we speak about these disparities, we got to think about these traumatized communities when perception is reality, and when the perception is that the police do not care about me, my son, my brother, my husband, my daughter. There's a certain trauma that's associated with that community that also forces a level of distrust amongst law enforcement, and that sort of forces this sort of mentality that, well, I'm not going to say anything to police because they don't care about me. You understand what I'm saying? So when we think about these issues here, we have to think about how, in many cases, these disparities that they are real, or they're me being a person that has to get phone calls from his mother and his grandmother and his sister at all hours of the night, asking me questions about why is the police not doing this? At all hours of the morning, asking me these sort of questions. To this day, this person who committed that crime has been found, and there's a level of trauma that's replicated over and over again to his friends, so on and so forth. That I believe, well, now if I can't trust them to take care of me and my community, I need to take justice into my own hands, and that's what we do not want. So when we speak about these disparities, whether as Councilman Williams said that there may have been some incorrect data or figures about it, it's still a perception of it. And the perception is reality to many of these families and many of these communities that we come from.
My name is Glenn Martin. I am on the City Council Task Force on Gun Violence. I've been on that task force for over a year, championed by Councilmember Williams, former Speaker Quinn, and other members of the City Council. And I also represent an organization called Just Leadership USA, and the goal of this organization is to reduce the amount of people in prison in the United States by half over the next 15 years. And one thing I know about increasing public safety is that you can do a lot of work on the back end. Here in this city, for instance, we spend $168,000 per person per year on Rikers Island. So I'm struggling with this idea that we don't have the resources to put on the front end to deal with some of these cases that are happening day in, day out in very specific communities here in New York City. And so we have a new administration, an administration committed to working closer with communities to increase public safety. And the way you do that is to not send the message to people who live in these communities that they have any less value than their whiter, wealthier counterparts here in Manhattan. And when you build bonds with communities, you move much more closely to public safety than what we've been doing for the last 12 years in terms of stop and frisk and other ways of engaging the community and policing communities as if they're jails, essentially. And so what I would push this administration to consider is how to redirect some of the resources where they're needed the most so that solving crime goes back to understanding that the people who are closest to the problem are closest to the solution.
Thank you, Councilman Williams, Tisha James. My name is Sean Duke McFadder. In 1994, at the age of 16, I was first incarcerated on Rikers Island due to being a product of my environment, which was my belief. And at that age, I became one of the first handful of young black men to join the New York City Bloods. And for the next 15 years of my life, that was the life that I lived, in and out the prison system. Every day I woke up with 2 guns on my waist because that was my life. And I eventually made a change when I realized that there was a problem. And it took me sitting in a cell, in a box, in upstate prison, before I found myself and knew that I had to do something else to help deal with these issues of gun violence in our communities. I then formed my own organization, which is called Gangsters Making Astronomical Community Changes. A lot of people are not going to understand that, but there's so many who do. And our job is to deal with these issues before they happen. So many times I've heard people say that change is not possible. So many times people have said that you can't stop the gun violence. And I look them right in their face because they're telling me that I didn't change. When I know I've changed because this is the life that I live now. I'm at press conferences about the police department. When you look at the life I come from, that means a lot. When you look at the families that's here, I've actually been with these families in the community. You meet Miss Rayside today for the first time. I met her when we was outside in front of that same place that her son was killed at. That's still open today. And we rallied and we spoke. And Ms. Rayside said, what is it that we can do to help y'all stop this violence in our communities? But no matter what we do, it seems like no one is paying enough attention to the before. The before. There should be no more mothers burying their children. It's the children burying the parents. That's what we believe as human beings, that our children are supposed to bury us. But when we're burying our children, we have a problem. And when we're not doing nothing on the forefront, that's the biggest problem. And it's about accountability today. In 2014, everybody has to be held accountable. We can no longer be afraid to voice our opinion and voice the things that we feel is causing issues in our communities, no matter who it is. We attack our mayor, we attack our commissioner, we need to attack everybody who's playing a part in this. And where I come from, I'm going to give you a real intricate subject here. Our music. We have our very own Brooklyn native from Marcy Projects, Jay-Z. I grew up on Jay-Z. I supported Jay-Z. I still like Jay-Z. But when the Barney issue came up, Jay-Z was quiet. He sent his people to send a press release out. And then when they spoke about his clothing that he had inside of Barney's, he said that 100% of my proceeds is going to my nonprofit. At this time, I've learned that Jay-Z's property inside of Barney's has exceeded $1 million in revenue. Jay-Z then made a song with Rick Ross that says, "The devil is a lie." And in that song, Jay-Z said, "You seen what I did to stop and frisk?" Jay, what did you do to stop and frisk? He said his clothes is in Barney's and he's going back to the hood. Jay-Z has a non-profit organization and we respect that. But his non-profit does not deal with gun violence. It was the same gun violence that Jay-Z advocated in his music that promoted him to the level that he is today. Murder, murder, Marcyville. Go back to the history of it. We have organizations that stand behind me that I know. Erica Ford, East Flatbush. Lay the guns down, I can name them for days. Faith, Fathers Alive in the Hood. That advocate to stop this gun violence in our communities before it happened. That is our job. You go back to numbers. The police department states that the homicides are down in our city. But then you have parents here who even have homicides solved. It's not the police work in itself that's bringing the homicides down. It's the people that are out in the streets 2, 3 o'clock in the morning that's responding to the shootings, stopping the retaliations, consoling the family. These are the ones who are being overlooked. So while we continue to say we need our resources, we have our council members, we have our advocates who are doing their job, we don't have the support we need to do our job. And our job is just as important as everybody else's job. So when we out there 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, you don't believe the work that we're doing, call any of us up. Come out to our communities. When someone is shot and the cameras are gone, come see what we're doing. We're fighting to stop it before it happens. And change is possible. And if we're going to stop the gun violence before the child gets murdered, help us help them. Thank you.